Good early evening, everybody. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on November 9, 2024. I hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday. I wanted to follow up. I've been wanting to read this letter for a long time. I guess now is just the right time because of what happened with Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon. They're very famous animals, and everybody knew them and beloved and everything. They had a Twitter account, but back in the day when I was caring for a feral cat colony, when I lived in Manalapan, New Jersey, 52 Sutton Drive, and home I lived in for 30 years as original owner, and cared for this colony for more than 16 years at the Pinebrook Care Cener. Back in the woods there, they had a watershed area, many acres of lands, and I had permission to be there and feed the cats because people were dumping animals there, so they needed somebody to take care of it, and I was the individual, and I had an elder gentleman that was also helping me. But I had some very envious and jealous other alleged rescue people around me who were dumping their cats there. Yeah, they were dumping their feral cats there, unneutered, unvaccinated, etc., causing my colony to explode in numbers. And then, of course, they would call animal control on me in the health department and say that it was out of hand when they were the ones that were creating the problem for me because they were very jealous of the way I cared for my animals. So long story short, I mentioned it in my last video that this very envious and jealous woman named Maria, she kept dumping animals, stealing animals, and she was actually turned into a gang stalker and showed up at my house and stole shoes out of my closet, new shoes out of my closet, left the box behind, and crushed my cat doors on my shed in my backyard. Yeah, she just happened to be driving down the road at the time that my house had been broken into. Meanwhile, she lives 45 minutes away. But anyway, I hired an attorney, and I want to read this letter just in case it disappears somehow. I want to read this letter. I hired an attorney to get my cat back. And before I hired this attorney, I contacted another law firm that allegedly cared, promoted, and worked for people like me, people who had cat colonies, who were experiencing problems, and you would hire them pro bono, right? So I contacted them first, and I spoke to this woman. I'm not even going to mention her name, because after I spoke to her on the phone, she says, well, I'm sure that if you spoke to so-and-so, she would give your cat back. And I said, I would not be taking the time to call an attorney if I didn't already do that. So anyway, she would not help me. It turns out, and this is the way it works, guys. This is you'll hear about this all the time. This attorney, who worked with a group of other attorneys to allegedly help people like me that encountered problems with feral cats or squirrels or whatever, she happened to also be on the board of directors of one of the offending nonprofits. That's right. So when I tried to get my cat back, I got a really nasty letter from that bitch saying that I was harassing them, threatening me, and this is the way they turn the wheels, right? Threatening me to not contact them again, that I'm harassing them. Meanwhile, it's the other way around, right? So I hired an attorney. February 28, 2014. Okay? So mind you, my gang stalking, my harassment and stuff has been going on at least since 2012. I think maybe back to 2009, but really, definitely I noticed it in 2012. So here, February 28, 2014, I hired an attorney. I'm not going to mention his name. And he wrote this letter with my assistance. He asked me to, write a letter. And then, of course, he did all the legalese and, all the stuff that lawyers do. So he sent it via fax, email, and U.S. mail. And this is the way you need to send correspondence, men and women out there. You got to make sure that they get it. Fax, email, U.S. mail. Okay? U.S. mail meaning certified mail. Well, you can send it U.S. mail and certified mail, so that would be 4 ways. So he sends the letter to this attorney in Morristown, New Jersey. And he writes, Valente versus the Animal Protection League of New Jersey. Dear Ms. Blah, blah, blah. Please be advised that I represent Lorraine Valente, the individual you threatened. With your February 25, 2014 letter, please direct all future correspondence to me. Ms. Valente is a colony caregiver owner. As such, she's entitled to certain rights and to protection under the law. And over from an organization that, at the moment, meaning them, has a 501c3 status. Based on information provided to me by my client, I'm advising you of the following. An action by an individual with apparent authority of the Animal Protection League of New Jersey is deemed to be an act of the League. This is certainly the case with APLNJ employee involved in the theft of my client's personal cat from the veterinarian's office, and in particular, where that individual used her position of authority for that purpose. I'm assuming that at this point the League has taken no action against this employee, further strengthening the argument that the employee acted under the authority of the League, therefore making the League responsible. We regard that employee's act as criminal for several reasons. Such criminal activity does, as a matter of fact, jeopardize the 501c3 status of the League. For your employee, Janine, contacted St. Francis Animal Clinic, which I understand is not her personal veterinarian, and it was not, to arrange for the discharge of Miss Valente's personal cat without my client's knowledge. This is compounded that woman continued trapping Miss Valente's colony of cats, a colony of which Manalapan Township is well aware of, and which the township has recognized to be under the care and control of Miss Valente. And by the way, I had the only feral cat colony in Manalapan, in Monmouth County, and likely in the state of New Jersey, that was a registered, by name, cat colony. It was widely known, everybody knew, it was mine, it was my cat colony. It was registered with the Department of Health. This is compounded that she continued trapping Miss Valente's colony of cats, a colony of which Manalapan Township is well aware of, and which Township has recognized to be under the care and control of Miss Valente. The idea that an attorney, which you represent that you are, would send a letter threatening legal action, including a civil action for defamation and an action of harassment which, in the state of New Jersey, does not exist as a civil action, in order to persuade an individual not to protect her rights from your client's criminal activity is astounding. It's also highly unethical. You indicate in your letter that Miss Valente never owned a Fluffy. By that, what information do you make that claim? You do not, and could not have factual basis for such attempted justification of a criminal act. Whether or not Miss Valente owns Fluffy, and she does, your client's act was a fraudulent one. She had no authority to demand that the veterinarian release Fluffy into her possession. She had no legal authority to have anything whatsoever to do with Fluffy. Her taking Fluffy from the veterinarian under false pretenses was theft. Pure and simple, it was a criminal act. Moreover, by supporting such an act, the League is aiding and abetting in a criminal act which is in and of itself a criminal act. You are furthering that criminal act with your letter. In fact, is that she has been harassing my client for many months now. Further, her acts have resulted in the deaths of several cats within the colony. Oh yeah, there were 8 of them. 8. This is not tolerable and will no longer be permitted. Oh, and that goes without all the thefts. By Maria. Oh yeah, and the thefts? How did I know? I found my cats listed on Adopt-a-Pet for adoption. That's right. And when I inquired surreptitiously, the woman who listed them said, oh, the owner was moving and she couldn't take them with her. Yeah. Here are some other facts which you should have acquainted yourself with before supporting your client's criminal activity and threatening my client unlawfully in the process. Miss Valenti is the legal owner of Fluffy. Fluffy is her pet. She has cared for her since birth. Fluffy has a microchip registered to Miss Valenti, and she is licensed to Miss Valenti by the Township of Manalapan. She was stolen previously and ended up in possession of a woman named, I'm not going to say her name, whose identity we will obtain in discovery should legal proceedings ensue. Oh, by the way, the woman whose name I won't mention because all these lawyers are bitches is a lawyer. We have reason to believe that blank is a friend of blank. Fluffy was TNR'd by the league only as a result of the theft of Fluffy. They released Fluffy, and Fluffy was retrapped by my client, meaning me. Fluffy weighed, listen to this, all you TNR folks out there. This cat weighed 2.8 pounds at the time. They spayed her, vaccinated, ear-tipped her, and threw her back outside after 2 days. She weighed 2.8 pounds. It appears from this instance and others that the league is abusing feral cats. Frankly, that should be cause not only for you to lose your 501c3 non-profit status, but to be shut down completely and criminal charges considered. Fluffy was near death as a result of your negligence. Because of your negligence and criminal activity towards Fluffy, Fluffy was fed by hand by me for 2 weeks. Due to obvious neurological problems, she was spinning in circles and unable to balance. She couldn't even groom herself without tipping over. She lived with Miss Valenti. She was not feral. She required medical care at the clinic on November 4, 2013, and again for observing testing on November 18, 2013, solely the result of your league's abusive treatment of Fluffy. That's right, they trapped her and spayed her, vaccinated her, and ear-tipped her. She weighed 2.8 pounds. She was under 3 months old. On November 22nd, 2013, the day Miss Valenti was to bring Fluffy home, Fluffy was stolen by Janine, as noted above, under false pretense, representing that she was acting under the league's official capacity. And yes, she signed out my cat with her name. Yeah, she didn't even fake it. She didn't even write somebody else's name. She wrote her name. She signed her name for my cat. She coerced release of Miss Valenti's cat by deceitfully telling the veterinarian assistant that Miss Valenti could not pay for the cat's $100 care. That, by the way, was indeed defamation, not just a criminal act. We have since learned that Miss Blank has repeatedly attempted to sabotage Miss Valenti's long-term relationship with Fluffy's vet. Fluffy has not yet been returned. And I'm just going to say for the record, folks, that lie saying that I couldn't pay for the $100 vet care, I paid this attorney close to $900. And I couldn't afford anymore. I couldn't afford to pursue this anymore. I was a divorced single mom caring for my daughter, caring for the cat colony. I didn't have the money. He says, my lawyer says, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not about to attempt to figure out why blank has engaged in such psychotic behavior, or what her personal vendetta is against Miss Valenti and her cats, frankly, I don't care. However, as long as she remains an employee of the league and continues to act on behalf of your organization, you're responsible for her acts civilly and criminally. Miss Valenti was also the legal owner of a male cat, oh, this is horrible, named Sandy. Sandy was a young and healthy, yet died due to admitted negligence by Janine. Again, acting under authority of the league. Sandy is buried on Janine's property, which is identified as the headquarters on McBride Road, Post Office Box 174, Englishtown, New Jersey. They have subsequently moved from there. And by the way, I tried so many times to get that cat. I went there physically, I begged, I bribed, I just wanted my cat returned so that I could bury my cat. And nobody would give me my cat back. And they've moved. Now, allegedly, the cat's buried there. Maybe the cat never died. Maybe they just sold it on Adopt-A-Pet like all my other cats. So he writes, McBride Road is actually in the township of Manalapan, as reported on Form 990 tax return. Miss Valenti would like the remains transferred to her. Sandy's microchip is registered to Miss Valenti and was fully licensed to Miss Valenti by the township of Manalapan, and a police report was filed. Miss Valenti is also the legal owner of a female, medium-haired black cat named Mabe, who was removed for TNR to the rescue's vet, Dr. Farr, 22 Water Street, on October 21st, 2013, and then disappeared. And by the way, I spoke to this Dr. Farr's office. She was not my vet, but she was a very nice woman. And she's the one who said, I have been caring for feral cats, spaying and neutering and vaccinating cats for years. And she said, your cats, if I didn't know they were outside, I would never have known it. They were the cleanest feral cats she's ever worked on. So I was the legal owner of a female, medium black-haired cat named Mabe, who was removed for TNR at Dr. Farr's office. There's reason to believe that Janine was also involved in this disappearance. 1 second. I just scrolled up too far here. I just scrolled up too far. I'm sorry. I just scrolled up. 1 second. Sandy. Okay, here it is. There's reason to believe that Miss Mata was also involved in this disappearance. Mabe's licensed to Miss Valenti in Manalapan Township, and as her microchip, we have reason to believe that she abused this cat as well. Additionally, Miss Valenti is the legal owner of the cats at Pinebrook Care Cener, is also their long-term authorized caretaker. Their microchips are registered to Valenti and paid for by her. The cats at Pinebrook are a licensed colony of Manalapan Township. Any group or individual raising money on behalf of the Pinebrook Cat Colony needs to 1. Provide an itemized list of contributors and financial contributions, both made online and to any post office box. And at that time, my lawyer found that they had a petcaring.com fundraiser and raised $2,340 and their post office box. He requested that they provide copies of all the veterinary invoices associated with cats' IDs as proof, and all unused funds to be transferred to Miss Valenti, their caretaker, for deposit into their trust account. Any group, organization, or individual who publicly associated themselves with the Pinebrook Cat Colony in writing or any Facebook page or written document without Miss Valenti's written consent, must immediately remove such representation. Well, I'll tell you folks, it's still there. Here we have the likely reason for Miss Mabe's animosity. Miss Mabe and possibly the League itself has apparently been engaging in illicitly obtaining funds under the guise of charitable work. Now, I think my lawyer got this portion wrong here. They weren't doing the fundraising. Maria was, okay? And Maria was a good friend of them. And Maria was extremely bossy. Very bossy woman. And I believe that it was Maria that bossed her into stealing my cat. I do believe that. But she went along. She went along with it. Miss Mabe, to protect her illicit activity, has been harassing and threatening Miss Valenti, including using you to pursue those threats, to pursue her illegal activity. This will no longer be tolerated. You reference a complaint by the Pinebrook Care Center. The complaint you claim the Pinebrook Care Center made to Manalapan was resolved October 18, 2013. And what that was, and I mentioned this to you before, is that some anonymous person, some anonymous Maria, some anonymous Karen, called the Pinebrook Care Center and complained about my cats who had been there for years and years. So it was resolved October 18, 2013. There was no action or assistance required by any of your employees or concerned person, quote unquote, after that date. And it does not appear that you actually provided any assistance, education, or educational materials as a result of the complaint. Assistance and educational materials were provided by Alley Cat Allies. I should note that TNR's Humane Trapping of Feral Cats Instruction Manual is distributed by your organization and website. However, Miss Mabe and the League have failed miserably to comply with any of those instructions, resulting in the deaths of several animals. Miss Valenti is the legal owner and authorized colony caregiver at the Pinebrook Care Center. Neither your organization or any employee of your organization is legally permitted to handle any of these cats without her permission or court order. The unlawful activities and her friend, I'm not going to mention her name because these are disgusting lawyers, okay? They're just disgusting, litigious pieces of crap. Reached a zenith when, without prior notification or permission, they booked an appointment with Miss Valenti's veterinarian, then trapped and recovered 2 of her female cats in November 2013 at the same time in the same trap without separating them. These women sneaked into Miss Valenti's colony in the dead of night and caused the cats to undergo unnecessary surgery without the required 24-hour fasting prior to that surgery. This is not only unlawful, it's cruel and sadistic, and is grounds for your company, which is shown by your letter that supports her actions, to be restrained from any contact with live animals. One older female cat suffered a painful ear abrasion after having been ear-tipped as a result of the limited room to move with the other recovering female in the same trap, in the same raw metal trap. And no, these were not coated traps. These were old, rusty, garbage traps. These weren't those beautiful true cat traps that are coated. These were rusted old traps. There were many other instances, but the point is made. We are by this letter demanding the return of Fluffy and Mabe to Miss Valenti no later than Tuesday, March 4, 2014 at noon. You may contact me to arrange the transfer. We're also demanding that you and all of your employees and their friends, quote unquote, cease and desist from contact with any of the animals within the Pinebrook Care Cener colony as of this date. We're also demanding that you and your employees and their friends cease and desist from contact with Miss Valenti's veterinarian and cease and desist from trapping, removing, or detaining any cats licensed to Miss Valenti or whose microchip is registered to Miss Valenti. As of the date of this letter, the League and any of its employees may cease and desist from slandering, libeling my client in any forum or to any organization or rescue group. We hereby demand that no one acting on behalf of your organization contact Ms. Valenti or place telephone calls to her home, which they were doing. They were hang-up phone calls. They had their friends calling me. It was a total gang stalking operation. They were going into my cat colony, turning their food bowls upside down, tearing up their blankets, harassing my cats, leaving food out in the parking lot to lure them there. You're also to advise me within 5 days for the arrangements of the transfer of Sandy's remains for proper burial. To aid the process of the foregoing, I've enclosed a photo of Sandy before he was killed by your employee, and photos of Fluffy before and after TNR and theft, as well as a picture of Mabe. Should your client fail to comply with the foregoing, we will commence the appropriate action against the League and the individuals involved. Among other avenues, we will seek an injunction prohibiting you or anyone acting on your behalf from coming in contact with any animals within the county of Monmouth County, New Jersey. He copied the health director here. He copied me. He copied the health director and somebody else. Okay, so this is Sandy, my beautiful little kitty, before he was unalived by Janine. This is the cat they claimed that they unalived, and I found out what happened. She actually did unalive him. I don't know what she did with the body, but she wouldn't give him back to me. You could see he was a beautiful, healthy cat. That was October 12th, 2013. Just a few days before October 15th when they TNR'd him. And then by the 16th, he didn't exist anymore. So he was fine on October 12th. And by the 16th, he was DEAD. Okay, so here's Fluffy before she got TNR'd, October 12th, 2013. She weighed 2.8 pounds. She was under 3 months old. Here she is after they trapped her. This is what she looked like by November 18. You could see her eye there. You could see how skinny she got. She wasn't eating. They ear tipped her. She had neurological problems. She was spinning in circles. 2013. Here she is at my house. She could hardly walk. Here she is again. Her head is tilted. All the life was sucked out of her. So on October 29, Fluffy was taken recovering from an upper respiratory infection, ear infection, severe diarrhea. Her head was tilted, and inability to eat or drink water on her own. That's when I brought her to the vet. That's after she was TNR'd by these criminal cats. Okay, so here's Mabe on the left. She was 4 months old. She was stolen from the colony, not returned. No update or written permission to remove. These are both 2 of my cats. Okay, so I just want to show you guys that not all nonprofits are good. And people are going to ask me, well, what was the result of this letter? Oh, you have no idea. Receive another letter back from this piece of shit lawyer who says, well, you can have the cats back. They were rehomed. And as far as Sandy, who was buried on their property, they refused to return him. So be careful who you allow to trap your cats. Be careful that you don't research the nonprofits. If I had additional money, I would have pursued this litigation. But I don't have the money. And your donations, the public's donations, paid for this attorney to harass me. Because not only was she director on the offending nonprofit, but she was the same lawyer who was part of a group of lawyers that claim to be proponents and protect feral cat colony caretakers, but not me. So that's what happened to me. So that's why I was so upset when I heard about Peanut and Fred the raccoon. And the woman whose photo is posted is getting a lot of negative comments. Now, from what I understand, she's not the only one that filed a complaint. So please, stop. We've got a lot of trolls on there, and I'm going to start deleting the comments. If you want to say things about how New York was wrong to accept a complaint from one person from the other side of the country, yes. But stop slandering this woman in a public forum. We don't know all the details, okay? And I think it's really disgusting that parents post photos of their underage children. I think it's wrong. I didn't do it with my own daughter. I don't think it's a good idea. I know that people, these young people these days, they just think it's fine to bring you into their home and show you everything that's going on, and their kids and their infants and all these close-up baby photos. And yes, they're adorable, and I love watching them. But I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a really bad idea. You're advertising your children. There are predators out there. Just like these predators go in and steal other people's cats. Well, there are people out there that might be so angry at this woman that they do something to her. We don't want that to happen. We just don't want women like her placing phone calls because they're envious or jealous about somebody else's nonprofit. And for all the other nasty comments that people left, I'm going to start deleting them. It's a horrible story. It's a horrible, horrible story. However, there's an assemblyman who has now created Peanut's Law, and he's hoping to get it promoted and enacted into law, so that there is a 3-day hold for any animal that's reported, and that there cannot be these anonymous phone calls. And you need to vet the people that are placing the calls to make sure that these people are not doing it out of spite or envy or jealousy or revenge. It's wrong. And this happened to me. back in New Jersey. My cats were stolen by a 501c3 nonprofit who have lawyers on their board of directors who are protecting their criminal activity, protecting the theft of animals. The theft not only from my registered colony, microchip cats that are registered to me, but going into my veterinarian's office where they don't have anything to do with them. They have another vet. Lying, saying that I couldn't pay $100, and stole my cat and refused to give it back. And then the letter that my lawyer received after this was, oh, they were Fluffy was rehomed. Really? She had neurological problems. How was she rehomed? Did you euthanize her? Is she alive? Does Maria have her? Because everything that they did, the person, the ringleader behind all of this was Maria. And just for the record, I have a nice, cute little nickname for her. I call her Riri Arias. You remember that woman, Jody Arias? She unalived her boyfriends, lied about it. There's actually interrogation of her on YouTube. And, you know, the cops go in here, they're talking to her, and she's like lying and lying and lying. They leave. But the cameras are rolling. And you could see her doing handstands and exercising and doing all kinds of weird stuff. And then lying about it. Well, that Jody Arias, that's her name. This Maria looks a lot like her. And that's what I call her, because she's a liar. She would go into my colony, and then to not post them under her rescue's name, which I found out was never a 501c3 nonprofit. You can't find it on the IRS website. But she was fundraising as if she were, which is against the law, actually. She was posting my cats for adoption under her friend's dog rescue name. Yeah, I caught her not once, not twice, but 3 times. And there's a whole bunch of other stories, but I won't bore you with the details because there are a lot of people out there that are thinking that you're just talking about cats. Like one person said, well, it's just a squirrel. It's not just a squirrel. It's somebody's possession. 7 years. A judge signed a warrant to search that man's home for 5 hours while he was outside. Is that insanity? Could you imagine how much money was spent on how many cops spent 5 hours searching a squirrel's house and confiscating a squirrel? What the hell? You should be more outraged about that. But anyway, this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. I'm going to get off my rants here. But yes, I'm a 501c3 nonprofit cat rescue. It's called Freya's Cat Rescue. I had a feral cat colony in Manalapan, New Jersey at the Pinebrook Care Cener for 16 years, and I had written permission. I had the only feral cat colony in Manalapan, in Monmouth County, and likely in the state of New Jersey that was actually a registered feral cat colony in the state of New Jersey, which means that I had to register them annually and pay a fee per cat. So anyway, please hit the thumbs up on this. Helps the channel grow, get the message out there. And I'm going to get my animals to bed. And I'll see you all guys at around 10 p.m.